Good morning, everyone. Sorry for missing last week, but life kind of got in the way. S.O. Swanson, good morning. He says, I made a grown woman cry. She said she had not eaten any quail for a long time, so let her steal some from me. She'll be reminiscing about her grandpappy at dinner tonight. Aaron Gidros says, That's a good cry, Steve. Good job. Steve says, Good morning, Aaron and Verna. And I want to say good morning to everyone. And speaking about that, I sold 2 meal packets of quail breast myself this weekend to the lady that's a repeat customer. So she ended up with 8 quail breast. Aaron says, That's awesome, Berta. Yep. When you have repeat customers, it always makes you feel good. Trouble is, I don't have any more quail now until in about 3 weeks I'll get some more eggs. SO response to good job. Was that Chris's form of butchering? No. What I do is I skin them. I cut the legs off and put in 8 pairs of legs. 4 pairs of legs in one package and the 4 breasts in another. So that makes 2 separate meals for me. And Aaron says, I sold almost all of my Bob White quail this weekend. Way to go, Aaron. C says, I know where you can get some eggs. Oh, I already got them ordered. I always get my eggs from my Shire farm. They're the only ones that make me happy. So the only thing I have right now is 2 pairs of Kai. And what I'm going to get when I get them, when I get my eggs, I'm going to be getting jumbo whites and jumbo white wing barrels. Steve asks, are any babies yet? No, no pups yet. I think one is just fat. Aaron says, I'm waiting on celadon eggs from Whiskey Tango. I'm pretty sure I was the first order. I've gotten celadons from them a while back, and I was not happy with celadons. Just to get blue eggs, uh-uh. But I will tell you about my experiment. For 3 years, I had been, every time I hatch a bunch of birds, I would call all the previous ones. Uh, so it took 3 years, 12 generations before I started seeing signs of inbreeding. And what I had is I had a murderous hen that gave me my first clue, because she would attack the other birds and just take out their eyes and then kill them. And then when I was butchering them all, I had 2 of them. Remember that picture about a year ago where it showed the celadons against a standard size when it was butchered and how skinny it looked? Well, I had 2 birds that way, and I was right that that's what they look like when there's too much interbreeding. Aaron says, I'm waiting on. Okay, I read that. Aaron says, I'm not a huge fan, but we have good market for them down here. I'll sell what people want to buy. And C says, I thought of getting them and telling people they were robin's eggs. They're not the same color blue. In fact, they're anywhere from a white to a light blue with speckles. Oh, Aaron, see what I'm drinking out of this morning? Trouble is, I'm going to have to fill it back up already. Be right back. Woman's prayer. Blessings, all you beautiful Quail people. Steve says, I like my jumbos and their large eggs. Aaron says, good morning, woman of spirit. S.O. Swanson says, hey there, woman of spirit. I say, blessings, Jan. I'm going to give you guys a word of advice. Do not overexhaust yourself. Because when you crash, you'll crash so bad. Because I had pushed myself so hard for 2 weeks that I just collapsed day before yesterday. And I mean, totally collapsed. I was in so much pain and so exhausted. I slept for 24 hours. I only took Lucy out twice because my neighbor downstairs came and took Lucy out for me the other times because I just couldn't hardly walk or anything. So you have to take care of yourself so you can take care of everything else. Steve, I think I'm older than you, and I still do it. Steve says, at my age, I wouldn't take the chance to overexert. Well, sometimes, like at me, you don't have a choice. I was under a deadline that I had to do, and that meant calling all my birds and everything else, getting ready for an exterminator. And it was pitiful. Aaron says, I live my life exhausted. Aaron, you won't know what exhaustion is until you can't hardly move your body at all. And you cannot stay awake, even if the house was on fire. Jan says, slow and steady gets the job done. Yeah, but sometimes you're under a very strict time limit, and that slow and steady has no chance in it. So that's why I haven't got the pickled egg cookbook out yet. Oh, okay. You are about my age. I'll be 65 in May. You didn't look at it. I thought you were only about 55. Well, happy belated birthday, Steve. Marianne says, good morning, wonderful Quail loving people. Good morning, Marianne. Good to see you. Steve says, haha, your eyesight isn't the greatest. 55, haha. And Steve says, good morning, Marianne. But what I was saying is, oh, we're glad to have you too, Marianne. She says it's great to catch the live. Erin says, Steve, you are still young. Wait until you get to be my age. Jan says, every time I think I'm ready to burrow in for winter, someone drops off a box of veggies from their cleaning out their garden. My poor canner has worked overtime. And Erin says, good morning, Marianne. Woman of spirit, between all the other work I was doing, I was also running my freeze dryer like crazy. Erin says, I feel 40, I act 12. Yeah, right. I usually feel like I'm 35 until my body reminds me I'm much older. The what I'm going to do is on a recap is when you get eggs from my shire, if you don't let your birds live up to 4 months old, more than 4 months old, and you keep hatching and replacing your birds, the birds will last 12 generations before you have a problem. Gidro's Urban Homestead, hello. Katrina, I think I said that right. Christina, I'm sorry, Christina. Steve says, I love free boxes of veggies. Wait, no, I wouldn't. Then I'd end up Tractor Supply, then end up with a freeze dryer. Jan says, I strained the fire cider and pureed the ingredients, dehydrated that to make powder to go into gelatin capsules, and some to jar up to use as a dry rub. Boy, is it good and spicy. I had quail the other day for supper. I baked it in the oven, and all I did is sprinkle liberally jerk seasoning. And oh my goddess, it was good. And I cook my meat until it's well done because I don't like anything partially cooked, not meat wise. Hey there, Gidro's family better half. It is Christina, right? Because all those K names I know it gets kind of confusing at times. Yes, it is. Good. That makes me feel good when I start getting the names right. Because you have Katrina, Kristen, Chris, and Christina. Aaron says, Steve, I only have the brains in the back of the family. Maybe. I think Christina also has the brains, and she's your inspiration. She keeps the fire burning under you. This is my favorite cup. Pardon the noise if you guys can hear all that yelling. Jan says, good morning, Tidros. Aaron says, what's everybody's homesteading plans today? Well, I still have to get my apartment back together. And I have to scrub down 2 3-tier cages. Andy Rabbit, hello. Hello, Andy. I have to scrub down to the 2 3-tier cages. Then I'll be ready for my next set of eggs. So my advice would be that at your 10th generation of quail is when you should add some new blood into it. That way it stops them from the inbreeding. Because it's at 12th at the generation is when you have the signs of inbreeding. You start seeing it. And out of 50 quail, I only had 3 of them that showed the signs of inbreeding. Marianne says, my brain constantly tries to convince my body that I'm still 17. My 59-year-old body falls for it and tries to keep up. Only 2 end up physically exhausted at the end of the day. The struggle is real, folks. Well, I am 6 years older than you, Marianne. And me, it took a couple weeks before I got totally exhausted. And he says, this is the first live I have caught live. Well, we're glad to have you, Andy. If you have any questions about quail, homesteading in small places, profit, etc., I'll be glad to answer the best I can. C says, I put the chicks outside yesterday as I only have quail. Now I have the day off. No more cleaning the brooder twice a day. I use Dale's Quail's brooders for my grow out. And Aaron says, that's awesome, Andy. Jen says, what are the signs, Verna? The signs of interbreeding is when you have one that has like a mental disorder, like she wants to attack things and she goes straight for the eyes, which means it's not a henpecking order. It is she's out to kill. The other sign is that their breasts, they don't gain weight. And when you call them, it looks like their breasts are missing a muscle. In other words, it's sunk in from the breastbone. So out of 50 birds, I only had 3 of them that had genetic issues. The murdering hen and the 2 that did not gain weight properly. In 12 generations, if you follow Zach's line of keeping your breeders for a year, the hens for a year, and the males for 9 months, you can go 11 years before you have to, 10 or 11 years before you have to add new blood to it. So that's quite a long time because Zach does really good on his breeding and there's no inbreeding with his birds. So when you have normally easygoing birds, suddenly you get one that's kind of crazy. And she's sneaky when she does it. You can watch the cage and all of them act all right. Then you leave the cage for the night and go look in the morning and you'll see one with an eye missing. That means she struck when you weren't watching. Aaron says, Steve, I'm brooding quail, chickens, and pheasants right now. I'm thankful Christina does a great job keeping up. Lane loves to help with the babies in the brooder. Yeah, Lane's good. Lane, he may be a young child, but he is a great quail farmer. In fact, I think he's a great farmer to begin with. And he enjoys learning every bit of it. So my next set of birds, I'm going to be doing exactly what Zach says, keep the hens for at least a year and the males for 9 months. He only does it for 6 months because of what he's doing. Um, then those birds can last 10 to 12 years before you have to add new blood to it. Just use your grow outs as grow outs and just call those when they get up to age. See, Jan, I'm the type of person when I hear something, I have to find out for myself how far it can go. So that's why one of the reasons why I was doing that. Steve says Dave's mama was concerned that butchering quail would be too emotional for him. Little does she know, he's out deer hunting today. First day of youth season. Yep. Aaron says, would you consider adding new roosters, adding new bloodlines? If, yeah, if they're not from your own hatch, the bloodlines you already have, or let's say you're running two different lines, then you can add the roosters from one line to the hens of the other line, and a rooster from the line A back to line B hens. That would be good enough, at least for another 10 years or so. Andy says, I just finished yesterday finally building a new 8-foot cage for the quail, close to Chris Slightly Redneck's cages. Okay, Andy, they're 8 foot long. How deep are they? Are they 2 feet or 3 feet deep? Aaron says, James and Lane are the same, true outdoorsmen. Yeah, they are. It's 2 feet deep, so that's 16 square feet. 16 times 3 is 18 carry the 1. It says 3, 4. So that's 48 birds you can keep in there. So at three birds per square feet, that's pretty good. C says, I have to build a new cage before my inspection. They require one bird per square feet down here, though I'm sure their inspections are lax. And he says, thank you. I think I'm about up to that many now. Yeah, 48 birds. So that would be 48 divided by 6. I'm too tired for that still. So that would be 8 breeding sets. So that would be 40 hens to 8 males. I already got it, Steve. Aaron says, I'm replacing every single one of my whites as soon as my next group start laying. They're only a year old and really don't lay very much. They have light, feed, water, no predators. They just don't lay. If those are Caturnix, you, ooh, you probably, I don't know, how much light do they have, Aaron? Are they getting 16 hours a day of light? Another thing, hmm, if they're Caturnix, that's unusual. They are right on side of my jumbos, so they have the same exact conditions. They have light. Yeah, no, that's strange. You say they're only a year old and they're doing that. It could be that they feel more of the quote seasonal change than the jumbo wilds do, but that would still be unusual. So yeah, I would swap them out. You might want to go instead of a year, you may want to go 9 months on your birds. At least on your whites. They have never really laid many eggs, so I'm just getting rid of them. Yeah, I don't blame you. If they can't keep up, then they're gone. Same reason why I got rid of celadons. She says when I had whites, they were just as protective as my pharaohs, but I ate them anyway. Well, see, I'm getting jumbo whites, and I'm staying with jumbo white winged pharaohs because the jumbo white winged pharaohs will give me pharaoh a few pharaohs down the line. But that way I can mix the whites. I can mix white with the pharaohs, and now I'm going to have to keep better track on my birds so that I know exactly how long each one is, how old each one is. Whereas the other way I was a lazy man's way, and it still lasted over 3 years. Now what I'll have to do is find out how long, if you keep them for a year or a year and a half, How long before you see signs of interbreeding? If I live that long. But I told my kids I was going to live to be 125. So I'm only middle aged right now. Aaron says, I'm not a fan of Italians or whites. As in my experience, they just don't do well for me. Yeah, Aaron, we each have to find out what is good for us. Before I was running white wing pharaohs and jumbo wilds. Those were my favorites. Everything else that I gotten in between, I ended up eating because they were pretty, but they weren't as prolific or they weren't exactly what I wanted. To me, I can't have anything that's just pretty. It's got to serve dual purpose. They got to be good layers, and they got to be grow good size. Now everybody worrying about the price of feed. Aaron says they only allow me to be around here because I'm pretty. I'm not touching that, Aaron. I'm not touching that at all. And he says, I only had 11 quail the last 3 years. Then I got an incubator this year. Boy, the numbers started adding up fast. I got 10 jumbo from Chris the week after QuailCon, 2, and 3 other colors and celadons. Well, Andy, the birds that you get from my shire, I know, will last. It's not until the 12th generation that you've seen signs of interbreeding. So that's quite a long time. And if you got that many different breeds, you can always you can always you always have your extra there. Aaron says, warning, incubating is addiction. Yeah, but when you get your first egg, that's the fever for the addiction. Steve says, if I had to rely on Pretty to be here, I'd have been gone long ago. You got that right. Me too. Andy, Aunt Erin, yes, I'd say I messed up getting an incubator. No, you really saved yourself a lot of money. Are you, Andy? Are your birds in cages or in an aviary? Oh, you just got done making that. I'm sorry, in cages because you just got done making that big cage. How many heads to how many roosts do you have going with the 11 that you had? Andy says I just pulled Christmas dinner out of the incubator last week. Aaron says my QuailCon chicks should be laying soon. I'm so excited. And Andy says they were in cages. How many hens and roosts did you have of the original 11? While we're waiting for Andy to respond. I had 8 hens and 3 roos. Oh, yeah, that was a little high on roos, but you always have that extra roo just in case. So you were doing a 4-to-1 with an extra. Here says, Andy, I like that you refer to them as Christmas dinner. I need, sorry about that. I named some of my turkeys Thanksgiving and Christmas. And he says 2 by 3 foot cage. That's a 6 foot cage, square feet, which means 18 birds, which would have been 15 hens and 3 roos. I do most I do most math in my head until I get tired. See, each one of my cages is about 2 by 3, and there are 3 tiers, and I have 2 of those. At one point, I did have it almost full, and that's when I had about 95 birds. And boy, did I sell breeding sets. And he says, they all got along and it worked. I gave away one rooster that was me, but the others were happy, so they stayed. Yep. Too much. A lot of times when you have that many roos to hens, your hens start looking raggedy. And he says, no, that cage is 2 by 4, not 2 by 3. Okay, you had said 2 by 4. I mean 2 by 3. So 2 by 4 is 8 times 3 is 24, which would make 20 hens and 4 roosters. That's how I think of everything when we go into square feet. I automatically think of how many hens and roosters I can put in it. And anytime I should be getting my 3-tier brooder with alterations done on it for my needs. She uses my Kai cages. So I can get rid of these supermarket cages. She says I have to recheck my ratio soon, so I never pay attention when I lose one. Oh, when one gets out and I'm not sure what cage it's from, instead of counting the birds, I just throw it into whatever cage I feel like at the time. Sometimes I end up with a lot in one cage, and because when you alter your your Minola Ranch cage, like I took the the breeding set and took their individual breeders dividers out. Then I had to use a twist tie to tie the flooring up high to the thing so that they couldn't escape. Because if there's a place that they can squeeze out, they'll squeeze out. Even if it means killing themselves when they do it. Quail have a tendency to think the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, and sometimes they kill themselves trying to get to the other side. Aaron says, same, Steve, and it's hard with all of the cages and quail I have to try to keep a cage with extra roos. I tell you, when you process the birds, you can see the difference between the stronger roos and the weaker roos by the size of their testes. Vicky says, good morning from chilly, dark California. Good morning, Vicky. Glad you can make it. Andy says, when you blow eggs out, what do you fill them with to keep them from breaking? Foam insulation is what Ed uses. When I blow them out, I just blow them out and wrap them up with press and seal paper and ship them off to whoever wants them. Aaron says, good morning, Vicky. C says, yep, I've never seen any of my 10 escapees. I presume they were dinner for some wildlife. And Aaron agrees. Ed uses spray foam in his eggs. C says, foam from the spray can. Use the window door type and it doesn't expand as much. Simple Living, new here. Good morning. Getting supplies and we'll get quail in spring. Trying to learn as much as possible. Good morning, Simple Living. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer it. And I want to ask you, Simple Living, are you the ones that are retired at 40? I wanted to ask you last time. Andy says, I have a calico quail that lays the prettiest eggs. They are bluish with goldish spots. Yeah, she's got the celadon gene, Andy. And C says, welcome, Simple Living. Simple Living, no, not them. Okay. Andy says, I have a old bubble gum machine that I'm going to fill with quail eggs. Oh, that is going to be so cool as a display. But we still welcome you anyhow, Simple Living. Steve agrees. That would be cute, Andy. Aaron says, Simple Living, that is great gold. You know, once you have quail, you're going to be happy. It is a little bit of a learning curve, but it doesn't take long. Just remember, you cannot free range them because they're the smallest animal on the food chain that everything will eat. And Andy says, thank you. Simple Living says, thank you. I am so excited. Simple Living, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Aaron says, you can tractor them. Yes, you can tractor them. But you have to make sure that the tractor still has wire underneath it so that nothing can get into them. Simple Lovely says, I bought 3 cages for Winola, a 2-tier and a single. Do you like them? Simple Living, Wynola is the only cages I have for my quail. I have 2 3-tier ones and a single tier. And then for brooders and my cavies, I use Dale's Quails cages. Buster, it's been a long time since I've caught a live. Just usually catch replays due to work. Good morning, Buster. Glad to have you. Linda Talion. Good morning, all. Thanks, Aaron, for the notification. Good morning, Linda. Glad you can make it. And Steve says, welcome, Linda and Buster. Aaron says, hey, Linda. So happy my quail sister made it. I am happy to see everybody. Oh, we've got 10 thumbs up. Thank you very much. Now, if you guys could share the stream to your Facebook page, maybe your other friends can join. Because we'll go on till close to for another hour at least. So to recap, we talked about my shire's eggs, how many generations before you start getting signs of interbreeding, and that's 12 generations. We talked about the signs of interbreeding, which is overly aggressive, sneaky bird to the deformity of the sunken in chest, not getting weight. Aaron says, does anyone else raise rabbits? If so, what breeds? Rabbits, I don't do, but I have KV instead, or Kai. C says, when you say 12 generations, is that line breeding or sister brother? That is just throwing eggs in the incubator because they were all close to the same breed, and just put them that way. It's just not keeping track. And he says, coons get to my quail early this year. For 3 years, they were in the same cage with 1-inch chicken wire. They pulled them right out like nothing, didn't even mess the wire up at all. Careful on the tractor. Yeah, you want to use the half-inch square wire on your tractors, with the bottom of the tractor being half-inch by 1-inch, so that they can still get the grass, but nothing get up at them. Simple Living, 2 incubators, a butterfly net to catch renegade quail, powdered electrolytes, 2 thermometers with humidity readings, brooder out of plastic tub with lid, and wire and light started mealworms. Oh, looks like you're getting really prepared, Simple Living. And Steve says, half-inch hardware cloth is your friend. Aaron says, Andy, chicken wire isn't great for protection. Andy says, Aaron, I have silver foxes and full-sized Rex. C says, don't forget the shovel for the poo. If they're outside, you don't need yeah, you do need the shovel. Unless you got black soldier fly larvae. Aaron says, Simple Living, you are ready to go. Definitely more prepared than I was when I started. Fort Iswire Farms, I use a paint scraper and large plastic tote for poo. That sounds good, Fort. Simple living, best way to call. I helped a friend call and I hated the twitching. What I'm going to tell you what I do, simple living. I do the bloodless call and then I put it in the cone, cut the head off. Let it do all the twitching in the cone. Okay, elsewhere. Fort Elsewhere Farm. Thank you, dear. Erin says, look up bloodless call. I will give you the link. Just give me a minute here. Let me find it. There you go. Let me tell you, we built a long quail cage, and Robert decided he wanted to build a two-tier lightweight rollout cage. So I think the long cage may become a rabbit cage. I haven't raised rabbits in 20 years. Aaron says, Linda, we have babies. Simple Lovey says, thanks for the. What you do is you do the bloodless call, shove them in the cone. As soon as their heads, they can't lift their heads anymore, then cut off the heads and let them bleed out. And then I skin them. Andy says, simple living, I cut the bottom of a paper cup out and use it as a cone. I didn't like that twitch either. See, but if you use it, when you try to shove them in a cone and they're still alive, they know how to get their necks back up and and they'll get right out of those cones, even if they're made for quail. Being on the bottom of the food chain, they are drastic for self-preservation. Fort Elsewhere says, oh, that's the worst, when they stick their foot out of the neck hole of the cone. Yeah. As they work their head up and back up it. That's why I do the bloodless call. Like if you're calling for reptiles and stuff, you do the bloodless call and then you put it in the cone and cut the head off. And I tell you what, the heads make good dog treats as well as the feet. Steve, I have to agree with what you said. They twitch longer than you think they do. I had a few that still had a heartbeat even after they were skinned. Yeah, and that really freaks me out is the heartbeat when they are being skinned. And he says, I cut their heads off, then drop it in the cone, but I only got to do 10 so far. Linda says, does anyone have a quail plucker? Do they go in it with head on or off? I'm sure you could do it either way when you boil it. If you do the bloodless call, yeah, you can just do it either way. Aaron says, no coins here, just use scissors. I'm usually doing so many and go so fast, so I never really notice the twitching. Steve says, I tried to give our dogs a couple feet and they looked at me like I was an idiot. Well, that's probably because you haven't fed them a quail yet, Steve. Fort Elsewhere says, I put the heads and blood into a pressure cooker, blend it up afterwards, and make an aspect for the animals. Well, that's good. But I freeze dry my heads and my feet, and they're dog treats for Lucy. Also, the wings. She loves the wings too. Steve says, I'm going to make a plucker this month. I have all my parts. Erin says, Linda, I have one. I put a video up on our channel. I take the heads off. Linda says, I'll go watch it, Erin. Fort Elsewhere says, my cats go crazy over the wings. And Simple Living says, can you dehydrate the feet? Yes, you can dehydrate the feet. You can put them in the dehydrator. You could probably put the heads in the dehydrator too. But they will take much longer because of the brains. Linda says, I gave my Penny a dead quail and he carried around for 3 days. Best of love, chicken dog ever. Lucy knows that if they're dead, she's allowed to have them. If they're alive, she has to bring them to me. And she's really good about that. Because she gets a quail, frozen quail about once a week. Simple Living freeze dryer sounds like a good piece of equipment, but pricey. You want me to tell you how I live on a fixed income, Simple Living. And the way I was able to afford my freeze dryer was I put it on layaway. I used my last stimulus check and the profits I made from selling quail and quail eggs. And that's how I got the money for the freeze dryer. Linda says, I don't know how to teach him that he can have it if it said, give him a frozen one, the whole body frozen. And that will help him learn. Simple Living says, great way to get one. Yeah, when you get something in your mind, you can figure out a way to do it. She says, maybe start with pieces first, Linda. Yeah, give him raw pieces first. And he says, my dad told me I can have his freeze dryer. I just got to get down there now. But I have my granddaughter in school. Linda says, Robert proposed to me and told me that I can have a ring or a freeze dryer. I'm on the fence about this decision, LOL. Hey, take the freeze dryer. Rings can get lost. The freeze dryer will save you lots of money. Because another thing is living by myself. When I cook, I have leftovers. Leftovers go in the freeze dryer. I'll be right back. I need some coffee. C says, no rush, Andy. Give me the address and I'll go pick it up. Okay, I'm back. That'll keep me for another 45 minutes. Okay, Gidros, Katrina says, Linda, get the freeze dryer. Steve says, tough decision, Linda. Andy's laughing. Aaron says, Linda, you can't eat a ring. And C says the freeze dryer is bigger. Linda says, I'll try the freezer method. I do have some quail parts in the dehydrator. They'll give him a dehydrator foot or wing and see how he does. Aaron says, Robert is a homesteading hero. Okay, which one is Robert? Linda says, haha, y'all aren't helping because I was thinking take the dehydrator and buy my own ring later. Yep, that's how you do it. And Andy says, Verna, you ever make moon rockets? What are moon rockets, Aaron? What are they made from? Moon rocks. Are you talking about using the Jolly Ranchers? Oh, milk duds in the freeze dryer. No, they're covered in chocolate, and chocolate doesn't do good in the freeze dryer because it melts. What I've done is I've done Jolly Ranchers. And they come out you take a little piece of candy about that big, and it comes out to a ball about like that. And I've done Biddle honey, which I love, freeze dried. Um, Peanut butter kisses. Um, Marshmallows, ice cream. Oh, milk does sound good. My daughter wants a freeze dryer just so she can make candy. Steve says, I thought moon rocks was a combination of crack and heroin. That's terrible. Yeah, Lydia, you're right. Andy says, they're my favorite. I make them every time I go to my dad's. Don't the chocolate covering just melt off of it? And I freeze dry it. I've got 3 or 4 Mylar bags full of quail eggs. So I made powdered eggs, which equal parts egg powder to water. No, it just cracked some. And that's using the candy mode on it. Chances our local fall festival the first week in October are selling freeze-dried Skittles. Those are pretty tasty. Yeah, I haven't done Skittles because I haven't bought any Skittles. The candy, and most of the candy I've done so far has been because my nurse brought it for me to try. So I ate a piece of each thing I tried and gave her back the rest of it. Linda says, Andy, where does your dad live? Steve says, don't be trying to sneak in on that, Linda. I already tried. Andy says, it's mostly fake chocolate, probably, but we have to roll them on paper towels before we bag them. Okay, that's to get rid of the melted chocolate. Linda says, you don't have the right equipment, Steve. All right, guys, behave. Andy's going to get it himself. I tell you what, marshmallows in it, mini marshmallows. You don't put a full bag on a tray because then it'll look like you had popcorn in your freeze dryer when you get done because they blow up. So you want to kind of loosely put your marshmallows on the trays. You don't want them tight. And those are good because they taste just like Lucky Charms. And Andy's smart. He says, I'm not telling. Another thing is if you're going to do quail breast, my advice would be to debone it first and to do it on parchment paper so it can absorb the grease because there is hidden grease in quail. And he says, I've been wanting it for years. See, says, Linda, you are engaged. And Lucy's laying behind me snoring until I said her name. Linda says, it's not legal yet. Yeah, she hasn't got her freeze dryer yet, so it's not legal. You know, another thing, Linda, asking for a freeze dryer, you can't pick that up and throw it at him if you break up. Then it says, so when you freeze dry quail, how do you clean your machine before putting food back in it? Oh, you could you can use vinegar water to clean it or vinegar to clean it. You but that will eventually get to the chrome. A mild dish soap is what they recommend. And I have cleaned my another thing that you have to worry about is when you do cheese, you'll end up with a lot of grease coming out. You wipe the grease off the cheese to put it in the bag, and you have a mess in your freeze dryer when you do a whole freeze dryer full of cheese. You'll end up pouring the grease out of the trays and then washing the trays, and you have to take your freeze dryer apart and clean it with mild soapy water. And that is great because the soap will cut the grease and it gets to clean. You'll have to clean the drum and everything. Then I pour a little vinegar water down the drain hose to make sure that that doesn't get plugged up. Then it says, so when you, okay. Addie says, you can say the round door is the ring, haha. Just hold your finger inside the door. That's smart, Andy. Linda says, LOL, he doesn't argue about anything. I never get the chance to throw stuff at him. Excuse me. And this is my idea is to make money off my freeze dryer. There's a lot of people that want their placenta freeze dried, but putting food in there after turns my stomach. Okay, what you do after you wash out your freeze dryer, Linda? Run a do a bread run, just like you do when you first get it. And that's where you put slices of bread on each tray. Fill the trays with sliced bread. Then run it through a full cycle. Yeah, people do freeze dried placentas and then they put them in capsules and take them because it's highly nutritious for the mother. That's why all the other animals eat their placentas after they're done giving birth. And it just, to me, it looks like a piece of liver. Linda says, yep, encapsulate it so they can ingest it. Not for me, but whatever. Andy Ravis says, I ate some freeze-dried Jello a few weeks ago. Oh, that was so good. C says, they do eat it, Simple Living. Simple Living says, oh, I've heard of that. I tell you, ice cream. When you do ice cream sandwiches, keep them in the wrapper, cut them in half, and freeze dry them that way. And it is wonderful. So are dollops of ice cream. And you know that chocolate that's in ice cream doesn't have a problem with the freeze dryer. And chocolate ice cream in the freeze dryer is good too. Another thing, if there's vegetables that you have a hard time eating normally, they're better in the freeze dryer. Linda says, how do I find out how far on backwater harvest right is? Well, they will tell you it's about 6 or 8 weeks before you get your freeze dryer. She says freeze dried ice cream sandwiches at the camping department is like $5 each. Yeah, and those are usually mini ice cream sandwiches. So can you imagine how much you could sell them for if you were to freeze dry them yourself? And things that I plan on using as snacks that I don't put in Mylar bags. I put them in the vacuum sealing bags that you get from the standard vacuum sealer. Tractor Supply is selling for the same price as Harvard Right. Just had to find which store has them on hand. That's true, Steve. Eddie says, I got to save up the gas money. Maybe I can get down there at Christmas break to get it. Well, I'm going to be making some powdered meringue with the last of the eggs that I have in my refrigerator. I have to separate them and separate the egg whites from the yolks. I'll freeze dry the yolks just like they are for dog treats and freeze dry the whites as meringue powder. Linda says, I bought a bunch of freeze dried Skittles last year for stocking stuffers. They were in little Mylar bags. I found a bag on the back of the shelf recently. They should still be good, Linda. They were gummy, not crunchy. Ah, so they didn't have an oxygen absorber in there. If they would have had an oxygen absorber in there, they would have still been crunchy. But most candy you don't plan to keep for years. Liz says, oh no, there was no oxygen absorber. That makes sense. Yeah, without the oxygen absorber, they can get water, air in there, and then the water condense in there, and that brings them back to regular texture. Even in my the plastic vacuum bags, I put oxygen or absorbers in those too. So I need to start putting down on my live stream. We'll talk freeze dryers, quail, kai, all part of homesteading and profit making. But I tell you what, part of the quail that I did have a great success with, and that was on the quail legs. You rehydrate those and make your wings when you need them. I got 2 brooder size plastic totes full of Mylar bags, dehydrated. See, says you can count on you and Katrina for a variety of conversations. Yep. See, and Katrina has a little bit bigger homestead than I do, and I just have a little apartment. So I have to do all my stuff in my apartment. Jan says, I just checked out Tractor Supply online. They do have the Harvest Right freeze dryer with premium pump, Verna. Is that what you have? For the pump is separate or is yours built in? They're separate, but they all come with the same price as the freeze dryer. It comes with the freeze dryer. And the Premier pump is good. See, it's a medium-sized freeze dryer, so that's what you want. Unless you got a big family, then you want a large one. C says, I was like 1 and 3. I don't know who snuck in on me. And Aaron, C says, the black one is less than the white or stainless. Well, at the time that I got it, the white was the cheapest one. And he says, brooder size totes. That's funny. Yeah, that's the plastic totes. And Linda says, is the Premier pump the one that comes with it? Yes, it is. The Premier pump is the one that comes with it now. And C says, was referring to the likes. Oh, we got 12 likes. If we ever got to 20 likes, I'd be happy. Yes, the Premier is the oil pump. The Premier pump is the vacuum pump that is the best because it comes for free. If you want the oilless pump, that's another grand. That is over a grand in itself. So I'd rather have what comes with it. And you even get your oil with it. You get everything you need to start your freeze dryer, except for what you're going to freeze dry, like bread to start with, because you always have to do bread. Oh, and if you do anything with strong flavors in your freeze dryer, like garlic and onions, do a bread run afterwards so that you don't, so that smell doesn't get into your other food. And Andy gave a thumbs up. Oh, 13. Yay. Now everybody needs to push on to Facebook that we're here or send a link to somebody and try to get them to come on in because we got another 40 minutes. When Lucy's alarm goes off, that's when I have to leave because she has to go potty. And every time she starts snoring, I end up saying her name. And he says, do you make croutons from the bread? Not the bread that you use for cleaning out your Harvest Right. No, that you throw away because you don't want the oil. On the first run, it's getting the extra oils out. And on the other ones afterwards, if it's for cleaning out smells, like onions and garlics or fish or something like that. If you want that in your croutons, then it's fine. Woman, Jan says, Tractor Supply does give you the option of 36 months to pay off. However, they do charge 3.99% interest. Whoa, they're like the same entrance as the feds now, LOL. And he says, after the garlic, I was thinking, after garlic and onions, or like celery and stuff like that, yes, you can make them into croutons, but you would want to cut your bread up into crouton shape when you put it on the trays to go in the freeze dryer. Yeah, we knew what you meant, Jan, when you said entrance. So we have 9 people here and 14 likes. Way to go. We only need 6 more. So that means invite other people to come in. See, I can't share it from my end. So I don't know what that arrow means, and I don't want to chance it. So we're down to 8 people. Somebody just left. Oh well. Now I've done celery, onions, red and green. I mean red and white onions. Woman Spirit says sometimes my tongue gets wrapped around my eye teeth and I can't see what I'm saying. LOL. Sometimes my tongue just has a mind of its own and I don't know what I'm saying. Because I don't have any eye teeth for it to get wrapped around. But anyhow, I've done celery. Carrots. Uh, Without teeth, I can't eat raw carrots. But if I put raw carrots in the freeze dryer, when they come out of the freeze dryer, I can eat them. And it has a fresh taste of raw carrots, but the texture has changed. But when you're doing carrots, it's better if you can slice them lengthwise or do carrot sticks because that core inside the carrot takes longer to dry when the rest of it seems like it's dry. You break it in half and touch the core to see if that's still cold. If that's still cold, run it through another 3 hours or so. Jan says, Andy, you can say it. I mean, you can have it. It's a very old saying. Well, that one didn't stay lit. Like I said, I love Gedrose's Urban Homestead cups because they hold quite a bit of coffee. They hold a pint of coffee. And Andy says thanks. See, after the KBs or the Kai, last night just before I went to bed. So this morning I haven't fed them yet, and they're not squealing. Linda says, I don't have one of those cups. Well, you'd have to get hold of Gedro's Urban Homestead. Like Aaron Gedro's or Gedro's Family Homestead. And ask them how you can get one. They're the biggest cup of any company that I've gotten so far. Because the one from my shire and Hidden Heights Farms, and also the ones that Whiskey Tango Farms and Kelly Connects sells are all standard size cups. Gedro's is like a standard and a half. Gedro says, Linda, message Aaron. And Andy says, how are you liking the, can't remember how it's spelled, Kai? The Kai, the bad thing about them, it takes 60 to 73 days for them to have a litter of pups. And that is a long time. So it's not like rabbits where you can have a litter in 30 days. So it takes twice as long. Yeah, it's spelled C-U-Y, Andy. And Jan says, Verna, could I freeze dry bones left over for making bone broth so I can use those to make my own bone meal for the garden? Yes, you can, Jan. You could freeze dry all the bones. Fort Elsewhere says, getting ready to dehydrate whole quail eggs, boiled and pickled some, and put my SW Gay Bird's order into the incubator. Are you going to dehydrate them or freeze dry them? If you want to freeze dry them, the best thing to do is to scramble them up. You know, like you're going to make scrambled eggs, and pour them in the tray and freeze dry. And he says, I want to get some, can't find any, so I got guinea pigs. Guinea pigs are Kai. Kai or cavias, other names that guinea pigs go by, and that's more what you use for livestock. Rock Hill Homestead. Good morning, Rock Hill. Aaron, better make me a list. I need sample of everything. Quail, pheasants, rabbits, and a cup. Aaron says, okay, Rock Hill Homestead, I'll get something together. Steve is smiling. Fort Ellsworth says, dehydrate. I don't have a freeze dryer. I'm going to poke holes in either end and test dry them for dog treats. Yeah, you could probably do that. Linda says, I am Rock Hill, LOL. And Andy says, they are smaller though. Aren't yours bigger, Verna? No, you look for the bigger ones. You know, it's hard to find the actual ones that they have in South America up here. So you get what you can and breed for larger. Just like you do for quail. You breed the largest ones, keep the largest ones for breeders, and other ones for stock. I have 2 females and 2 males. And I'm going to have to take a picture of my Kai and post it online, or post a video of them. And Steve says, at Rock Hill Homestead, you better have a truck. Aaron and Christina, you need to get a website store up, because those rabbit foot and rabbit tail earring, keychains are wonderful, as well as your cups and your rabbit ears. Aaron says, Linda, I'll deliver. Aaron says, well, you and Ed have us convinced to do earrings as well. Yep. You can do them with the eggs. You can do them with the rabbit's feet. You can do them with the rabbit's tail. And Linda says, come on. Steve says, yeah, I need to get a rabbit's foot key ring for James. He'd love that. Eddie says, my cat uses the feet as toys. Well, use the front feet for toys, and the back feet you use for keychains. Aaron says, Steve, send me your mailing address. Steve says, James almost has all the supplies for him to make some necklaces. Echo, what's my notification?
One new notification from Amazon Shopping. A shipment will arrive today. By the way, during major holidays, I won't reveal what's inside packages when it might be a gift. To learn how to change this, just say, how do I change titles?
And Steve says, James almost has all the... Okay, I read all that. I got caught up. After the first of the year, I'm going to start looking to getting me a website put up too. My cookbooks would probably still stay at my Char's farm. In case anybody wants to know, here's the link to buy the cookbook. And he says, you know what's cool is to remove the fur from the front feet and make necklace from them. Yeah, but I think the fur is so cool. I mean, that feels good against your chest. Steve, did you notice how many members are newbie quail lovers? Rock Hill says, Verna, do you live near my shire? I live about 15 minutes away. And he says, they are kind of scary looking. Aaron says, we have a bunch of hides to process this winter. I'm wanting to make a blanket or a jacket. That would be great, Aaron. Don't forget you have to line it with something too. C says, I don't want to hear that, Verna. Grr. Even with all the people that I booted out recently, we still got over 10,000. Every time I get complaints about a scammer, they get kicked out. Aaron says, Linda, we need to go get Verna to come eat with us next year for QuailCon. We had so much fun this year. Oh, that would be great. I'll probably be speaking again next year. Maybe I'll be all these scammers bugging the heck out of me. We have a lot of fun at QuailCon. Rockio says, haha, Aaron has a reserved table. Zach don't know yet, but that's okay. Rockio, were you at QuailCon? And did you come to my table where I could talk to and I talked to you? And he says, Aaron, I have found winter is not a good time of year to do hides. They freeze on me when I'm trying to work them, and fur flies if I try it in the house. I don't have an outdoor building to do them. Well, what you do is, Andy, is you roll up your furs and put them in the freezer to hold till spring. And Aaron says that's how awesome the quail community is. We met at QuailCon and are best friends now. Rockhill said, yep, I came and talked to you for a few and bought a necklace and ornament. Okay, so what's your other name then, Rockhill? Jan says, people are finally realizing quail are easy and can be raised in such small areas. Fresh eggs every day and quail eat. Win-win all the way around. Yeah, because if I can do it in a one-bedroom apartment, anybody can do it. C says, Raquel is Linda, right? Andy says, yes, spring is best. Summer, they dry out too fast. Aaron says, Andy, I live in South Louisiana, so winter is the best since it's the only time the humidity is lower. That's correct, Steve. Raquel, Linda Talon. Okay. Raquel is Robert and Linda's homestead. All righty. I wonder where Linda went to. Oh. Even with it being 2 days this year, it still seemed like it wasn't long enough. Andy says, I have 100 by 75 foot yard. I'm small scale. But you're not as small scale as I am, Andy. I'm a micro homesteader. I don't even have a yard. I don't even have a patio. Andy says, no, I'm not. No, you're not what? He's not as small scale as you. No, nobody's as small scale as I am. Aaron says, Andy, our last house had a yard that was 20 by 30, and we had a bunch of animals and a garden. C says, I love to have 100 by 75. Goals. Andy says, as small scale as you, I have rabbits and quail. Now, see, if I had a backyard, I could have rabbits and quail. That's why my goal is to get a house to rent. Because then I could have rabbits and quail. And boy, could I make money there. And he says, well, my house sits in that space too. Yeah, well, we figured that much. But even if I had a 20 by 30 yard, even if it was a 15 by 10, which is 150 square feet, Steve says, a house too, double goals. Oh. And it says, I love the way your garden is, Gidros. They have a good garden. Katrina's at Sow and Tear. She her garden has a lot of volunteers too, and it is a small area, but she grows a lot of stuff in it. So, Andy, how big is your house? How many square feet is your house? Aaron says, thanks, Linda. Sometimes I think we are great at growing weeds. You know, the definition of a weed is something that you didn't plan to grow there. So even rose bushes can be weeds. Andy says, I do a lot in that small yard. I use the 55-gallon planters. Well, Andy, if you go and get that freeze dryer, make sure next year you plant some eggplant. Oh, another thing that's real good in the freeze dryer is watermelon. And Steve says, Aaron, it's legal for medical purposes. Oops, wrong weed. Linda says, Christina did the video showing the flowers. I want to add a whole bed of flowers next year. Already planned out where they go. Linda, you need to get some saffron crocuses. So that way you have flowers, but then you got saffron you can harvest in the fall. Andy says, I'm not sure how big the house is. Well, next time go outside and measure how wide it is to how long it is. And that way you'll find out how much area it's taken up so that you know about how big the house is. Aaron says, Andy, we planted in buckets, cattle, mineral tubs, green stalks, and raised garden beds. I plant in whatever I can get a hold of. Andy says, hubby says about 22 square feet. So that's not taking up very much 22 square feet is not very big. And unless he's thinking about 220 square feet, and even that's small. Here it says, Steve, I actually looked into legally growing those weeds for the medical market. And he says, I use 5-gallon buckets and cow tubs too. C says 22 square feet is like 4 foot by 5 foot. Dang, my shed is bigger than that. Yeah, that's worse than a tiny home. Aaron says, I said it before and I'll say it again. I'll grow or raise anything I sell. That's about what I'm doing. I can sell a bunch of freeze-dried eggs, powdered eggs, because those would be pure profit for me. And those are expensive to buy at the store. Can also make powdered meringue, which is just egg whites. And he says, no, it's not small house, maybe about 3.5 single car garages. Yeah, that's like 2,200 feet. Aaron says, we even had button quail, but they repopulated so fast it's got out of hand fast. C says, my friend grew a weed in their garden. We call it parsley. It was over 6 feet tall. Chances I have 1-bedroom house, approximately 800 square feet, an 8 by 10 greenhouse in the backyard with half barrels. Side yard is garden space, half barrels in the front decorated red, white, and blue. And he says, oh, haha, I didn't add all the 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Woman of Spirit says, the other side of the front yard, I have half barrels. One contains a peach tree, and 2 planters have fig trees with a 6 by 8 raised bed planter. Jan, my fig tree is in a planter, and this year is the first time I've ever seen what fig leaves look like when they change color for fall and fall off. They're yellow, and they're pretty. And then it says, our homestead is our retirement plan. So we're working on building it to sell everything. And Andy says, my weeds are about 6 feet tall. Aaron says, Linda, I'll come work for you. No, but what I was saying is I could sell eggshells for crafting, powdered eggs, fresh eggs, breeder sets, meal packs of quail. Linda says, no hurricanes here, although we did have tornadoes last night. Linda, what state are you in? Because tornadoes in November is kind of strange. Northeast Texas, okay. C says, Linda must be in Arkansas or Texas. Aaron says, the weather just made it here. Much needed rain. Yeah, we're supposed to be getting rain today too in Ohio. Steve says we just got lots of wind yesterday and rain this morning. Steve, we're supposed to get lots of wind and rain today. Andy says that storm went around us last night. Linda says, yep, Steve, LOL. We were just a few minutes from the Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas line. Erin says, where are you at, Andy? So I've got apples and oranges that I have to get ready for the freeze dryer. I've already got one container of orange powder. Let me see if I can get it there. Yeah. This here is mandarin orange powder. Skins and oranges all together. Jess says I dehydrated some fig leaves to use in tea blends. C says you can make tang. Yeah, I'm going to use this more for baking and for ice cream making. Because if I use this to make it with my vanilla ice cream, it'd be like dreamsicles or creamsicles. Christina said, Woman of Spirit, I was just reading about dehydrating fig leaves the other day. And Angie says, we had wind yesterday. I was trying to put tin on the quail cage and it blew off and I had to wait for hubby to get home to help hold it down. I'm in Missouri near Arkansas. Linda says, elaborate on the WOS. Elaborate on that, Woman of Spirit. We have a fig tree that just produced its first figs last week. What can I do with the leaves? She says, not too far from me in North Mississippi. I know that fig leaves, you can use them like cabbage leaves. You can feed them to you can use them as tea. And you can use them to feed your quail and all your other animals. My Kai loved the fig leaves I gave to them that turned yellow. I gave it to them. They chomped it down like it was ice cream. Well, it's almost 5 minutes to 12. So I'm going to have to cut this off for today. C says fig leaves make a great wrap for steamed fish or rice and vegetables and can also be added to stews or soups as a spinach alternative. That's what I said. Well, like you can use it like you do cabbage leaves. But it's about time for me to take Lucy out, and I want to go before the alarm goes off. So you all have a blessed week, and hopefully see you tomorrow at my Shire Farms live stream. Woman Spirit says, Gidro's interesting info on fig leaves online. Buster says, catch you later. Y'all have a blessed week and see you tomorrow on my Shire. Happy homesteading, everyone, Steve says. Gidro says, nice chatting. Hope everyone has a great day. Bye, cuz. Bye, cuz. Bye, all.